Trackers, possibly the most popular and well-known boat brand on the planet, from their simple Jon boats to their tougher Grizzlies, and even onto their entry-level bass boats. Most people can relate to them as affordable boats, starter boats that people can get into. They make a wide array of different models for different fishing styles, from low to high, and some of their higher end models really aren't that bad. They come with some nice stuff, but even then, Tracker still gets a lot of slack from people in the industry, labeling it as a boat that simply isn't capable of competing on a tournament level. That title belongs to their bigger brother fiberglass equivalents, the Nitros. Specifically, fiberglass boats have had the market forever because of their insane ability to plane at high speeds, low capacity, and overall ability to hold insane horsepower loads. But things are changing and trends are changing, and aluminum hulls that can compete on par with glass boats have now emerged. Even fiberglass skiffs for saltwater, but you'd be foolish to believe that the aluminum trend started just now. What if I told you way back in the early 2000s there was a boat produced by Tracker that could do it all? A boat with a strong single-stamped aluminum hull that, when outfitted right, could go 60 plus miles an hour and compete with any fiberglass boat on the planet. A boat that was built way ahead of its time, an idea by Johnny Morris and pushed forward by Rick Clunn in the Bassmaster series for 2 years just to prove that they could do it. What if I told you that that boat was a Tracker, and that in the eyes of many, it was one of the best hulls ever made, and that we have it now? We are going to give it a serious facelift and try and max it out. Bring all the new industry standards in here and try and put it on par with its glass boat equivalents. But it won't be easy. This is no simple Jon boat to bass boat conversion. This is a full-on 18-foot bass boat. The amount of strain and fortitude and knowledge and material needed to complete a boat like this will be tedious, but we will pull it off out of our garage with simple tools at a DIY level that anybody can do. And when we do it, it will turn heads, and people will know that it was built by the Tiny Boat Nation. This is a 2003 Tracker Tournament V18. The V18 line was the only hull made like this from Tracker. A hull so strong that when outfitted correctly, it could go 60 plus miles an hour and compete directly with its glass boat equivalents. The boat was built really well, but everything else on top, after 20 years or so, is gone. The carpet's done, the wood's degrading, it's all gotta go. Back when this boat was made, a lot of the features in it were pretty much state of the art. It's really not off par with any other glass boat that's its size in terms of what was actually put in for features. But now, where everybody is miles and miles ahead, we have a hull capable of so much more than what it has in it. So we're going to go ahead and give this entire boat a facelift. The wood and the carpet were the first things to really go in this boat, so we're taking all of it out. We're going to replace it with synthetic matting and aluminum floors. After getting all the carpet glue off with the carpets and getting the rest of the boat prepped, we were ready to install the subfloor. Contrary to popular belief, the subfloor gets beat up way worse than the actual deck, so we're going to make sure the subfloor is solid with an aluminum subfloor and Gator Skins not skid. High quality neoprene rubber with UVD inhibitors all in it to make it last forever. Fun fact, you can get a cheap cooler from Walmart and frame it right into your boat like nothing. You just need a TH Marine compartment drain, some epoxy, or a high quality resin like this, let it sit in the bottom, and voila! That is an instant drainable cooler. We make it center right in there so it drains right into the subfloor version of the boat. Cut off all the ends so it's able to be framed in. Since the Gator skin worked out so well, we figured, why stop a good thing? So we skinned the entire side walls. And we're going to be skinning the inner walls and everything else we can stick that stuff on, we will. This is our Gen X framing. We actually have full kits of this that will do standard boats. It's right on our site. The kit allows for the lightest frame possible out of aluminum kit with dry hatch diversion lips that will keep all your gear dry. Now that the framing is done, we can start doing more of the intricate stuff. I'm going to make the biggest rod locker I've ever made because I finally have a boat big enough and long enough to do it. I've always avoided putting center lockers in smaller boats because I don't think they're the most efficient, but in a boat like this, there's really no other way. I mean, the spot just says, "Use me!" And so we did. We're running 1.5" PVC tubing. We're heating the end and using any sort of bottle to shape out and flare out the end of the tubes. This was a pretty complicated process, getting close to 20 tubes inside a small section the way it was. We had to heat the tubes in their entirety and have them flex the perfect way, but we got it done, and now we're on to the electronics. We have a Blue Sea Systems switch panel. It is a true marine grade switch panel. It has a plastic membrane over the switches so no water can ever get into them, period. And now that that's installed, it's time to run all the wiring and the lights and everything that's going to make this boat pop. People have asked me often why I don't use relays. We will be using some in this boat because the boat is so big and we are running a lot of lights, as well as a lot of pretty intense accessories that are a little bit more into it because this boat is so big. We're going to be redoing pretty much everything and adding this Boss system from Pro Charging Systems. It is the best thing you could have to optimize your cheap Walmart batteries, which is what we have here. With the wiring finally out of the way, it's time to move on to some of the more fun stuff. We're going to not carpet the inside of the boat again for obvious reasons, and we are going to instead add turf. This is turf from our store. It is completely routable two-tone foam. And yes, we figured out ways to route it to where we really can step up our game. We have full videos on how to do this. We have full tutorial sections on our website and on our YouTube channel. Fun fact, before all this, I was actually supposed to go to school to be some sort of animator or digital designer, but I bailed. But before this, I used to draw all the time, and I haven't been able to draw in a while, so this was actually very refreshing and fun, and not near as hard as you would think. All you really need is a light router and the correct drill bits, and you can pull off pretty much anything. If you can route wood with pretty flawless results, then you can route foam all day. So it just takes a slight change in rules and a few different bits, and you can get it done very nicely. If there was any way to give this thing a facelift, this turf definitely did it. And we're also going to give the live well a facelift with this Lexan cover that we got from Underground Power. The link is in the description below for a thing directly to them. This lighting kit from Chase Marine came out pretty sweet, and this is really all we can do for the frame. Now we got to move on to the deck. The initial deck system for this boat was a wood aluminum hybrid setup, and that was actually pretty smart. We're going to replicate that. We're here running foam to see if it's going to stick on wood and do what it's supposed to do. Then we're going to route the edges. It actually worked pretty well. This is a running experiment. We're going to get to this later. First, we're going to skin this aluminum frame with a neoprene rubber matting called Gator Skin Soft Touch. It is much better than the 3M carbon fiber tape or any sort of vinyl. Much more protective and much more sound dampening when your hatches actually slam on top of the deck. So if you're all about stealth, it's something you really want to look into. And plus, it looks awesome. With all that and the front deck more or less taken care of, it's time for us to get back to the back. Because of the way the back deck is and everything that's back there, we can't just do our own thing like we did with the front deck. We actually have to restore it to factory. So that includes a few other things. The only real difference that we did from the factory stock is that we pre-gapped all these hatches and panels for turf, meaning they're almost right on top of each other because you can't have a big giant gap when you're running turf. You do it for carpet because carpet smushes together, but with turf, you need to have a minimal gap. We're going to go ahead and use the same principle on all the lids for the front deck. We're going to gap them super close together using my Gen X lid system. This is my initial running design of an all riveted aluminum hatch that is completely stiff and rigid. I use resin to fill in the corners, but we actually got around that by making aluminum brackets that slide in that you can rivet all the corners together. So you can bypass this unless you have resin that you want to waste. But the end result either way is a very nice super stiff hatch that feels great, that you can form in any shape and you can do it without welding, and it turns out fantastic. The sheeting is 0.063. It's equal to about a 3/8 sheet of plywood. It's about the lightest we can get for an aluminum equivalent to a wood hatch. But you gotta run under supports because it flexes. And these are TH Marine Tackle Titans. I love these. An awesome addition to anybody who's making hatches. While you're in the process before you put on the top, install these. I'm actually gonna install these on a bar so where I can move them up and down depending on what type of lure I want to run. Whether they're longer, like jerk baits, or shorter, like crankbaits, I can adjust these down here with rivet nuts onto each end. They hold quite well. They have pretty strong magnets, and they also have brackets where you can slide the hooks in, and they don't go anywhere. Now to attach these hatches to the actual deck, we run piano hinges right directly to the hatch. The square tubing hides the rivets, and then we rivet it to a piece of angle, stick it underneath the wooden panel, and then we screw them all down. While we're here, we go ahead and we install the struts. Pretty easy to install in this framing model. We only did a miter extension to this deck, about a foot or so out, for the cooler, and then for an additional just day box. And then right here we have this last little section designated for these co-angler like rod stoves. I never knew how invaluable those things were until I actually fished as a co-angler getting backboated. They are everything you need. We are installing TH Marine lid locks. Very nice cam lever latch systems that are locking. All you need to install them is a hole saw. Make sure you measure out right so you don't mess that up. We do this to all 5 hatches up in front. If you do this right and your measurements are right, it should slide right underneath your frame and lock. Now, it has 2 different types of cam levers, so they'll fit a variety of different frames no matter how fat or skinny or far away. Now we're ready to finish turfing the rest of the wood deck, all the stationary panels. Because the adhesive on our turf is so good, we really only have to use adhesion promoter. It sticks right to the resin coated wood. Pretty nice. And with that, we can finally get to the back. The back I've been avoiding because the back is going to be fairly basic, minus a few touch-ups we're going to do. The major modification we did to the back was just this. We had it pre-sized and pre-gapped per order, and it fit right perfect into that live well. You can get them in any size you want, depending on where your live well is. The last few pieces of the pie here were initially wrapped in carpet, so we wrapped them all in gator skins, whether it was soft touch or whether it was their really thick, robust non-skid. One of the last things we did in transition was putting the seats back. It's honestly because I forgot how to put them back together. I took them apart way long ago. But we got brand new seats dedicated to us from bassboatseats.com. Pretty awesome seats. That's what we go through to get our stuff. We ended up breaking our own rule and we ended up having to carpet one piece of the entire boat. And that's because we ran out of gator skins. But everything else was either skinned or it was turfed. In order to be really successful with this line turf, you need to be able to think way ahead, like all the way into your framing, how it's going to lay out. So I don't know if line turf was the best for this project, but it still turned out pretty well. And now it's game day, or game night. This is actually 4 in the morning. That's the kind of schedule we were on. Getting this thing done was not easy. But it did get done. And we were pretty happy with the results. And right now, we're going to go fish. Because we have nothing else to do. And we need to test this thing before it goes back out to Texas. Whether it's a kayak or a canoe or a boat like this, whatever you fish in, just do it, because life's short. Have fun while you can. Tight lines.